friends, Harvey Milk Club, amongst many other organizations, are here representing the interests of San Franciscans trying to fight rental foreclosures. So I am not amazing on the mic, which means I'm going to turn it over to my friend Tommy Mecca, who works with the Housing Rights Coalition of San Francisco, and he's going to talk to you about the situation here in the city.
Okay, so I don't think I need to tell you much about what's going on, right? Because you all know what's going on. People are getting evicted. And I don't mean one or two people. I mean hundreds of people. Maybe thousands of people are getting evicted right now in San Francisco, and there's only one reason they get evicted, not because they didn't pay their rent, not because they're breaking up the furniture in their apartment and breaking the walls and destroying their landlord's property, but because some real estate speculator or some real estate investor, you can boo, some real estate investor wants their apartment so they can make scads of money by evicting them and selling it as a TIC. I don't know how many people understand the whole TIC thing. Is anybody need me to explain the whole TIC thing? Come on, explain it. Okay, so TIC is a tenancy in common. Basically, it's a bunch of people who own a piece of property together, which is, you know, a very nice hippie idea from the 60s, which was really wonderful in the 60s. But sometime in the late 90s, when we had a dot-com boom, and real estate suddenly was worth 6 or 7 times more than it was worth 5 minutes before, some realtors decided, hey, if we can get rid of all the tenants in a building, then we can sell each of those units to people for scads of money and walk away with a lot of profit. And that's what they did. They invoked the state Ellis Act, which is an act that was written by realtors in Southern California. And what Ellis says is that even in a city like San Francisco where we have rent control protection, a landlord can, quote unquote, go out of the business of being a landlord by evicting all of the tenants and then doing whatever he wants with their units. So that's how the TIC thing got started. So basically, let me just give you a quick rundown on how this works in terms of the money that's made. So say you have a 2-unit building and it's got rent controlled tenants in it. And I'm going to do easy math because I'm bad with math. So say the speculator buys this house for $1 million, buys this 2-unit building for $1 million, right? Because it's rent controlled, the rents are lower, so he gets it cheaper than what it's worth. And then he sells each unit for $1 million. And what does he walk away with? $1 million in profit. And that is not an exaggeration. People are making $1 million or more off of these transactions and then using the money to flip another building. Are we going to stand for that?
No!
Are we going to stand for that? No! Okay, do you know that right now, here in the Mission, there are 17 buildings being Ellis acted. 17 buildings. And this will probably not come as a shock to you, but they're all working class Latino immigrant families. And guess who's going to end up living in them?
White people.
White
Rich.
yuppies.
Right, yep.
And that's another reality of all the evictions, is that it is totally destroying the diversity of our city. And in the Castro, guess who's getting evicted? Long-term tenants with AIDS. Like Jeremy Michaels, who I believe we will be seeing him shortly. But Jeremy Michaels is a man with AIDS who has nowhere to go. He's been in his apartment for almost 2 decades, and he's being evicted so his landlord, who's a real estate investor, can make big bucks. Are we going to stand for that? No! Are we going to stand for that? No! What are we going to do? Fight back! What are we going to do? Fight back! And when I say we have to fight back, I don't mean that we just have to stand here at a rally shouting we're going to fight back. We have to go out there and we have to make change. We have to stop speculation. And if that means closing down the sale of TICs, which we've done before, we have to do it. If that means going to the homes of real estate speculators on a Sunday morning and waking them up with a whole lot of noise, like we did in the late 90s, then we have to do that. If that means going to the Board of Supervisors and doing a sit-in in the chamber one Tuesday afternoon, until they actually do something to stop the speculation, then we have to do it, right? Right! We have to mean business. Because, you know what? They don't listen to us when we're just standing here screaming. They listen to us, though, when we make it inconvenient for them, when we bother them, when we interrupt their sales and their profits. That's when they start to listen. And it's not just the speculators and the investors, it's also the banks, because you know what? People are still being foreclosed on. People with AIDS, like Larry Fulks, an African-American gay man with AIDS, who was foreclosed from his home. And do you know where he is now? He's sleeping in his van.
That's never good.
I remember in the 80s when San Francisco was the model of caring for people with AIDS. And now people with AIDS are living on the streets and sleeping in their vans. And what are we going to do about it? Fight back! What are we going to do about it? Fight back! Are we going to do whatever we have to do to stop this bullshit? Yeah! Are we going to do it? Yeah! Are we going to fight back? Yeah! San Francisco, are we ready to take Wells Fargo? Yeah! Are we going to go to Wells Fargo right up here off the street? Yeah! Are we going to do it? Let's do it. Named Ellis Act after me.
Seymour Ellis.
I'm here with the Greater Real Estate Eviction Drive, and we're here to give a prize to Wells Fargo. They tried really hard. Let's have a round of applause for Wells Fargo. We've got a prize for them today. They have 84,903 loans that are being foreclosed on. Now, they didn't come in first, but they did come in second. So let's give a big Wells is number 2 round of applause for Wells Fargo for being number 2. 84,009, that's almost 85,000 loans under foreclosure right now. Wells is number 2. 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 Hey everybody, are we pissed off? Yeah! Are we pissed off? Yeah! Are we tired of Wells Fargo stealing from the poor to give to the rich? Yeah! What we all know is while the banks and Wells Fargo were destroying our economy, 30% of the people that they were trying to evict weren't even behind. That's how greedy they were. They're trying to evict people to give to the rich. And now, our politicians are telling us that in order to fix the problems that they've caused killing our economy, we need to take away our grandmother's Social Security, we need to take away her Medicare, and we need to kick her out of her house. What do we say? No! No more! So, we have an agenda. We have to stop the evictions. A second thing that we need to do is we need to pass a Robin Hood tax. Why am I dressed as Robin Hood? Because we don't even need to steal from the banks. They need to pay their fair share.
That's right.
Today, there are over 2,000 people marching through Washington, D.C. demanding a Robin Hood tax. What is a Robin Hood tax? It's a 5.5%, a tiny sales tax on speculative Wall Street transactions. A tiny tax that could give us $350 billion per year to pay for all the things that we care about, to pay for housing, to pay for treatment for people living with HIV, to pay for climate change, we can say on Earth Day. Now, what we need to do is we need to demand that our politicians support this. We need to demand that Nancy Pelosi and Barbara Boxer and Jackie Spear support this. On Thursday in D.C., Keith Ellison introduced this bill with the support of Barbara Lee. Woo! Now we need to make this happen. A lot of people on the right like to quote the Bible and say that, you know, blessed are the poor, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. We need to say they shouldn't have to wait to die and get to heaven before they can have health care, before they get to have a roof over their heads. So what are we going to pass? Are we going to pass the Robin Hood tax? Yeah! Are we going to pass the Robin Hood tax? Yeah! And are we going to demand that Wells Fargo stop these awful evictions? Yeah! Act up! Fight back! Fight it! Act up! Fight back! Fight AIDS! Act up! Fight back! Fight AIDS! Act up! Fight back! Fight AIDS! All right. Oh, stop eviction. And fight eviction. And fight eviction.
All the foreclosures on owned homes also drives up the rental market. So if a home gets foreclosed upon, that gets flipped into a high-end house, most likely, which is why we're fighting for both evictions and the rental, and in the foreclosure fighter. So, folks, what we're going to do is we're going to take this up the street. We're going to hit Valencia. We're going to take a left, and then we're going to take a right on 18th and show Valencia and Dolores Street that the people of San Francisco are still here, that we're still fighting for our communities with love and with passion. So with that... Public honor. You should mix it, I guess. So, which is pretty rock. Eviction equals death. Housing equals healthcare. Eviction equals death. Housing equals healthcare. Eviction equals death. Act up! Fight back! Fight eviction! Act up! Fight back! Fight eviction! Act up! We'll never be silent again! Act up! Gays and lesbians under attack! What do we do? Act up! Fight back! Housing is the right! Act up! Housing is the right! Housing is the right! Act up! People with AIDS are here to stay. We're coming for your condos. Housing equals life. Evictions equals death. Well, we don't want to be
Basically, this is the home of Jeremy Michaels. He's lived here for almost 2 decades, and he's being evicted by an Ellis Act eviction. And the landlord plans to actually merge the 3 apartments here into one big monster home. So they're going to need to go to the Planning Commission for permits, and we're planning to be at the Planning Commission to say no. Okay? Are you going to be with us?
Yep.
Yes! Because we're going to need all the groups, everybody to be there with us at the Planning Commission to stop the investor who bought this building. He's not a landlord. It's an investment group that bought this property to make lots of money. And so their plan to make lots of money is to merge this and then probably sell it for $3 million or something. Because this neighborhood, it'll go for a whole lot of money. I have a flyer here which I'm going to pass around. If you want to be on a list of folks who will help plan some protests against the investor, and also plan a group to go to the Planning Commission to let them know that we don't want these people to get permits to do anything. We want them to leave our city. That's what we want. We want them out of our city along with all the other investors and all the other speculators. Let's ship them out of here. Okay? 100 evictions in the last few years, the last decade or so. So some of these people have these long records of evicting people.
What's her name?
Bonnie Spindler.
Bonnie.
Tell you just what is going on. Jeremy Michaels, thank you.
My name is Jeremy Michaels. I have AIDS and I'm being evicted from the use of the Ellis Act. Well, I've said this before, I'm not a public speaker, and I'm really not comfortable doing this. However, I strongly believe that if people don't speak out on issues of importance to the community, then change is not possible. So comfortable or not, here I am. I want to welcome you to my home for the past 18 years, and to my Castro neighborhood where I've spent the last 4 decades, or 2/3 of my life. I've been part of, or have been witness to, a lot of gay history in the making, as so many of you have. I was there at some of the earliest gay pride parades and Castro Street fairs, listening to speakers like Harvey Milk, and seeing entertainers like Sylvester and 2 Tons of Fun and Dr. Callie. And I proudly voted for Harvey to become the city's first openly gay supervisor. I participated in the fight against the Briggs Amendment, which would have outlawed gay teachers in California schools. I walked in the Candlelight March honoring the lives of Harvey Milk and Mayor Moscone after their assassinations by Supervisor Dan White. And on the night after Dan White was sentenced to only 7 years for his crimes, I was at 18th and Castro, right across from the Elephant Walk bar, when the police, who had been previously brutalizing Castro Street protesters, stormed that bar and subsequently attacked patrons as well. And I've been here for many other protests and for many other celebrations.
That's not right.
And like most of you, I've seen how HIV and AIDS have devastated this community over the years. And I've lost most of my closest friends and lovers to this disease, as I'm sure so many of you have. Till 12 years ago, I thought I had somehow miraculously escaped its clutches. But that was not to be, and I've been dealing with that reality as best as I can ever since, with mixed results. And now, on top of the great losses this disease has cost our gay community, even more losses are occurring in the form of more and more long-term tenants with HIV/AIDS living in rent-controlled apartments, being forced to move out of their homes and or out of the city after being evicted through the use of the Ellis Act, or who have been scared and bullied by just the threat of an Ellis eviction into accepting low buyout offers to vacate, because they don't feel they'd be able to withstand the rigors and stress of an extended legal fight that they probably can't win. I'd always thought that I would spend the rest of my life living in this neighborhood and city that I love. Now I know that, like so many before me who found themselves in similar situations, I will have no choice but to move out of my neighborhood and my city, because I will no longer be able to afford to live here after I'm forced to vacate my home. Having been unable to work and living on a fixed income for the past 12 years, it is only because of rent control that I've been able to continue to afford living here for this long. Now, with sky-high rents, a comparable one-bedroom apartment in the Castro is totally out of my reach. And even if I could get some kind of a housing assistance, it is doubtful that I would be able to find a subsidized apartment in the Castro, which is so central to my needs, near my doctors, pharmacies, stores, and public transportation, and where I feel safe. Today, the city is undergoing a new tech boom 2.0, and as a result of the systematic dismantling of our city's rent control protections by state laws like the Ellis Act and Costa-Hawkins put into place by the real estate lobby, landlords can raise rents on vacant apartments with no limits because there's no longer any vacancy controls. Or they can just go out of the rental business altogether and evict all the building's tenants, including seniors, and those with disabilities like HIV and full-blown AIDS, most of whom, like me, will have no other option but to leave the city, again because of the extremely high rents. And what do we get in return? A one-year extension to vacate and a little over $8,500 for moving expenses, which is hardly just compensation for losing our homes of 15, 20, 25 years or longer. And then these owner speculators will turn around and sell these apartments as TICs, or in my case, merge them to sell as a single-family dwelling, adding to the loss of even more affordable housing units in the area, while making these speculators huge profits.
Hey Frank, I'm still here.
So this tech boom 2.0 has really brought out what I call the
I'm doing
vultures of
videos
greed,
right now.
a de facto alliance of banks, the real estate lobby, and whether unwittingly or not, city officials like the mayor and several supervisors, including my own supervisor.
Well, I'm
for
just going to try and get on the
Street,
bus as soon
Scott
as it's
Wiener.
over.
In my opinion, either this man is bought and paid for by the moneyed interests in this town, as a list of his campaign contributors might indicate, or he is their unwitting dupe. In either case, he has proven through his actions that he is not on the side of renters in this city. And he doesn't seem to care too much about economic diversity in the Castro either.
No.
A year ago, I sent Mr. Wiener a letter detailing my situation and asking for help.
He doesn't care.
Here is his email reply. Quote, "Hi Jeremy, I received your letter. I'm not sure if there's anything we can do, but my office will look into it. I'm very sorry to hear about your situation. That's really awful." End quote. Signed, Scott Wiener.
Yeah.
Since then, however, I've received absolutely no follow-up from Mr. Wiener
No, you
or his
won't.
staff.
You won't.
So I guess he wasn't really all that sorry.
No.
Also, I'd like to point out, if I'm not mistaken, I have read about other California city governments that have found ways around the Ellis Act to discourage real estate speculation in their cities. And they didn't have near the degree of speculation we have. So I think it is more a matter of being willing to do something about it and this Board of Supervisors and Mayor are just not willing.
Get rid of them.
Another member of the Vulture Alliance worth noting would be the San Francisco Planning Commission,
Yep.
whose members are appointed by the Mayor and President of the Board of Supervisors, and who seem to align themselves way too often with owners ruling against residents, even when such rulings totally contradict the Planning Department's own stated master plan priority policies, two of which seem particularly applicable to the Castro today. Policy 2 states, quote, that existing housing and neighborhood character be conserved and protected in order to preserve the cultural and economic diversity of our neighborhoods, end quote. And Policy 3 states, quote, that the city's supply of affordable housing be preserved and enhanced, end quote. So how well do you think the existing housing and neighborhood character have been conserved and protected in the Castro in order to preserve our gay culture? And just what has been done to preserve our economic diversity? And where is all this preserved and enhanced supply of affordable housing in the Castro? I can't find it. And believe me, because of my circumstances, it's not like I haven't been looking. It is obvious to even the casual observer that for the past several years now, these policies have been all but ignored in our neighborhood planning, and in the city in general, by the members of the Planning Commission, all in the name of economic progress, or in other words, money before people. But the worst vultures of greed have been the real estate speculators, many of whom I've listed on my website, www.ellishurtseniors.org. And here I would like to call out my own personal vultures as a prime example of how uncaring real estate speculators can be. The new owners of this property are Kwang Mai, William H. Young, and John H. Du. And their business entity is 460 Noe Group, LLC, based in Union City. These are truly callous individuals who knew from the very beginning that they had a person with AIDS living in the building. And soon after they bought the place, they began threatening me with an Ellis eviction if I didn't accept their lowball buyout offer and vacate. On September 10, 2012, they subsequently Ellised the building and served me with eviction papers, which means that I will have only until September 10th of this year to legally occupy my apartment. All these men want is the highest profit they can get after they remodel and resell this building.
Of course.
They could care less what happens to me when I'm forced out to move out of the city and no longer have access to all my HIV specialists who have kept me alive for this long. Prospect, I'll admit that, yes, scares me. These guys, they won't lose even a second's sleep over my face. Of course, I'm far from the only one having to deal with an Ellis eviction. I imagine some of you are as well, or soon maybe, or maybe you've already been evicted under Ellis, or you know of someone who has. Yes, the vultures of greed are soaring high with sharpened talons, ready to feed upon our city seniors and disabled, and on what's left of our already decimated San Francisco gay community, so ravaged by the many deaths of our brothers and sisters from AIDS. But we don't have to allow it. There is power in speaking out. When speaking out, people will listen, and then hopefully others will speak out, and more will listen, and so on. The cause is just, and with time and perseverance it will prevail. History tells us so. Together with our growing number of allies, we can change minds, and we can eventually reclaim the city from the vultures of greed. But it will take time, and it will take perseverance, and it will take a lot of speaking out. Finally, most of all, I just want to thank you all for caring. Thank you for caring about the survival of a strong gay community here in the Castro and throughout San Francisco. Thank you for caring about those of us who are seniors and or disabled, about those of us struggling every day with HIV/AIDS, about those of us being evicted, or in some cases foreclosed on, and thrown out of our homes and forced out of our own city. Thank you for caring for people like me by taking part in actions like this and speaking out in protest against the vultures of greed. Thank you for listening.
That sign up in the window is what inspired me to contact him and see if he'd help out with this. And as you can see, he knows what he's talking about.